Hey friends, hope everyone is doing well. I am going to get back into a more regular routine with the video post, and I wanted to, since we're less than a day away now, or right at a day away from the 2019 Survivor Series, I want to talk about Survivor Series, the tradition of Survivor Series, and how I would have that influence from 1987 play out today in 2019. So, I'm an old school wrestling fan, and by old school, I'm talking 80s, early 90s. Um, I loved the original concept of Survivor Series. The teams of five strive to survive. That main event back in 1987, which, by the way, is going to be the topic of discussion on the My 123 Cents podcast on the Jittery Monkey Podcasting Network, as you can see behind me here. That'll be dropping on Monday. But I want to talk about the way that those matches, those first four Survivor Series, 87, 88, 89, and 90, all of the matches were the Survivor Series elimination style matches. And you had in 87 and 88, you had the tag teams involved in it as well. So you had 10 men on each side of the ring for those competitions. Then in 1989, we pared it down and it was teams of four. And then in 91, you still had all the elimination matches, but you had one singles match added, and that was Hulk Hogan against The Undertaker, where The Undertaker won his first WWF championship, of course, thanks to the help of the Nature Boy Ric Flair. 92, in my opinion, is where Survivor Series, I guess if you want to say jumped the shark, that's where it happened. And for me, that's where the event kind of started going downhill, because to me, Survivor Series was always unique in its presentation. You didn't have these big elimination matches anywhere else. We weren't seeing it on primetime. We weren't seeing it on Superstars. We weren't seeing it at WrestleMania, and pay-per-view was still in its infancy, and you could still have those unique moments. And for me, that's what I loved about Survivor Series. It was unique, just like the Royal Rumble. I can't imagine now there ever being a Royal Rumble event without the Royal Rumble. And to me, the Survivor Series should be the same way. It should be elimination matches only, maybe pepper in a championship match, but I would have kept it the way it is. Obviously, I don't work there, and there's a plan, and they know what they're doing. But as a fan's perspective, and I'm not trying to sound like a boomer, and I'm not trying to be the old man yelling at clouds, but here's what I would tweak about the 2019 Survivor Series. For me, again, I'm going to go back to 1990, where they had that Ultimate Survivors match, and I know a lot of people crap on that show and on that Survivor Series and that concept. To me, 1990 is probably, if it's not my favorite Survivor Series, it is in the top three for sure. Here's how I would make that influence into 2019. Instead of having all of these three team elimination matches and then the peppered in with the singles matches, going back to the straight elimination concept, you have Team Raw, 5 guys from Raw versus 5 guys from Raw. And then you have 5 guys from SmackDown versus 5 guys from SmackDown. 5 guys from NXT versus 5 guys from NXT. 5 women from SmackDown versus 5 women from SmackDown. 5 women from Raw versus 5 women from Raw. 5 women from NXT versus 5 women from NXT. Then you take the survivors of each of those matches and you create 2 Ultimate Survivor matches. And it's, perhaps it becomes a triple threat match. Perhaps, I guess it does become a triple threat match, because you have the NXT team that has its sole survivors. You have the Raw team that has sole survivors, and you have the SmackDown team that has sole survivors. And I know you run into a situation where maybe you don't have multiple survivors. If you have one true sole survivor, it may become a situation where you have Brock Lesnar and whatever other, Drew McIntyre, for example, against Adam Cole and against maybe 2 members of the New Day. It's an interesting way to mix things up, but to me, it's a great way to keep the tradition alive of just elimination matches. Now, I know I haven't completely thought out this idea. I'm sure someone will be able to poke holes in it, and I hope someone does and shares their opinion, gives me their 1, 2, 3 cents on the Survivor Series. Again, friends, thanks so much for being a part of the show, and be sure to subscribe and let your friends know about my 1, 2, 3 cents.